We are having a chuckle for ourselves as we were sitting here reminiscing about coming out of the spiritual closet, um, wondering how you are doing with that. Are you still in the spiritual closet? Have you come out of your own spiritual closet yet? And what does that look like? What does that mean for you? Karen and I are going to be talking a little bit today here at the Soul Light Collective about our own coming out of our spiritual closets. And thank you for joining us. We're so glad you're here. My name, if you're new, is Diane, and this is my dear friend Karen. And we are two intuitive energy healing practitioners who are on this channel to share not only our own experiences in our own spirit healing and spiritual awakening journeys, but as spiritual business owners as well. And we share tips and tools and techniques, and also light language transmissions we put out once a week. And here we are today talking about coming out of the spiritual closet. Karen, take it
Amazing.
away.
Amazing. Wow. That's all I can start with. Wow. So, is there a spiritual closet? The proverbial spiritual closet is my first question. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And I can tell you that I stood in mine with the door handle, holding it as tight as possible because I did not want to come out. No, 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 no. I'll talk a little bit about just a very brief going over a little bit of my awakening and how I came to find myself in my spiritual closet. I had a pretty significant trauma happen that can happen for a lot of people. Not everybody, but I had a trauma happen, and I don't think I've ever shared this. I had a friend pass away. One of my traumas, I had a very dear friend pass away very suddenly. And it really like shook me like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I remember about 10 days after she passed, she visited me in a dream. And I remember sitting up in my bed in the middle of the night, like, oh my God, like she was here. She was here. I just had a visit. I've heard about this before. I know people talk about this before. This has never happened to me before. I had a beautiful visit. It was so beautiful. Um, sorry, I'm sitting with that for a minute. And I woke up that morning and I was like, something just changed in me. Like this wasn't a dream. This was an experience I had.
And can I just interrupt you for a
Yeah.
second? Can you just sort of share a little bit about where you were in your life? Like, what was your life
Oh
like
my gosh.
before your friend passed away?
Um, two daughters in school, maybe one in middle school, one early high school. And I was still at home, and I was just doing the Martha Stewart thing. I like to call it the Martha Stewart thing, right? I was just up every day doing normal everything. I had a routine. I had things I needed to do, places I needed to go, shopping that needed to be done, food that needed to be prepped. And um, this awakening moment happened for me. Like I was just the
Were
most normal
you like
person.
a church goer? Were you spiritual at all? Were you just
I grew up in the
living
Catholic
the status
Church.
quo?
I Yeah, very Catholic family, very Catholic family. Found myself pulled away from that extensively. I was just not involved at all. I mean, if Oprah was talking about it, right? Like that was kind of like that was spirituality. If Oprah was talking about it. And I had that moment, and I remember thinking like something just shifted. Like I knew that. And I just went back on. I just shut it all back down again. I told a close friend who knew her also. And she's like, you totally had a visit. Like, I believe you. It was a visit that was amazing. And she wanted to hear all the details. And then I just went forward, like, no big deal. And then I just started, there's all those universal signs, right? The numbers start coming up, things start coming up. And I remember Facebook. I would be on Facebook, and this particular, I'm not in the spiritual circles. I'm doing the mom thing. I'm in the school Facebook pages. And I remember specifically this one particular medium, her name kept coming up across my feed on Facebook. And it got to the point where it was so annoying. I was like, I don't know this person. Like, why do I keep seeing this person? And I was like, I sat down one day and I said, I'm kind of wondering if this is a push. So I went to see this medium, and we had a lovely meeting, and we talked about my experience and my friend, and it was just beautiful mediumship, so healing. Then I went home. And and during that meeting, she had said to me, like, if you were having these kind of dreams and these visits, you must be very open. And I'm like, no, I'm not open. No, not me. And I know that then I had a couple of other things come up. I had a couple of other events come up in my life, which shook me a little bit. And it was kind of like, I could hear universe, pay attention, pay attention. And I was like, no, 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 no. And I know that when I was dealing with another situation, my dream state became very active. I am a clairvoyant. I work very deeply within my dream state. That is just like it's like it's, I don't want to call it my channel. It's like my on button. And it got very loud. I was like, why this? Why that? Why am I seeing animals in my sleep? Like I was having all these really strange experiences. And I just kept opening to that. Like there's something going on, there's something going on. I went back to the medium and she had a psychic circle. I sat in her beautiful circle and I started to really like play with my senses a little bit. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. And you would think that that would make you feel like, oh, this is amazing. I can go tell everybody and everyone's going to think I'm totally fine. Again, I'm in the closet with the door like this. No, no. And I can remember sitting in the class and having people say to me, like, have you told your husband yet? Like, no, not gonna do it, not gonna do it. But like the books started coming into the house, the crystals started coming into the house. He's like, I had to feel like I was hiding them still. Like I'm sure, Diane, your story was so much more calm and beautiful. But that was the beginning of deciding if I was going to crack that door open a bit. I'm going to jump back to you before I talk about after I opened that door, but go ahead and share.
I love all that. And I haven't heard a lot of that before. So that was
It's
fun.
crazy.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Gosh, I've mentioned this before. My spiritual journey started really as a child. I have I'm an empath, so highly sensitive, and lived in a home where there was abuse and violence, and spent a lot of time in nature. I would just, go. I just didn't want to be in my house and hearing, all the fighting going on. So I would just go hide in the woods or play down by the ocean, and that was my solace. And I always had such a strong connection to the natural world that just it was so soothing. We would go to church on Sundays, and I always, I loved like the beautiful stained glass windows and the architecture, um, and the music, and wanting to feel like something more than I was feeling. Like I felt more alive and connected when I was out in nature than I was at church, because it was like, you have to sit still. You can't, there were all these rules with going to church. And if you behave, then, maybe we'll get you a treat after church. It was kind of like a bribe thing. And uh there were things I was questioning at a very young age in church, like why do we have to be a certain age before we get confirmed, or why aren't there women? There were just all these things, and I was just like, this is so weird. Like, why are there rules like that? So I'm a very free spirit, and but really on my spiritual path for such a long time, and but was I out of the closet spiritually? No, I think I was seeking, and I never really cared what people thought until I did, I guess. Maybe I thought I was more open than I really was. When my daughters were in middle school, we moved to a different state in 2007. So my daughters were pretty young, and we had been going to a non-denominational church up in New England. And then we came here and everybody was asking, where do you go to church? Where do you go to church? And so we started going to a church that we just did a little church shopping when we moved here. Um, my husband was brought up Catholic, but all that really meant was they would go to church Christmas Eve and Easter Sunday, and that was it. And they went to church, and not to say anything, in no judgments whatsoever, because my church upbringing was not much too much different. So, we never talked about God at home other than the prayer at night. It wasn't discussed. It was just something you did. And so, my husband had very different interests, I guess. He wasn't drawn spiritually the way I was. But anyways, we were going to it was a Baptist-based church, and we went church shopping, and my daughter came home from school one day and she said, I want us to go to this church because a friend of hers had invited her to a youth group. And so I was like, okay, great. They want to go to church. Great. Because that's what we're supposed to do as parents, right? Bring our kids to church. So everything looks good on the outside. So we were going to this Baptist-based church, and I was getting more and more uncomfortable with things. We would go, and it was just, I mean, there was a lot of good things about it, don't get me wrong. And there's wonderful things about churches, many churches, but there's a difference between spirituality and religion, and they can go beautifully together, beautifully hand in hand. And I have attended several churches that I have just gotten such rich teachings from. But the other members of the church, I think, they didn't quite understand. I felt like there was sort of this disconnect because I was on this metaphysical path, and that was really what I was drawn to. The crystals, the Reiki. I was, at that point in my career, I had switched from corporate going into the healing profession, and that started with my own physical healing. And I just had this drive it was just part of me. Like I knew that I was supposed to be doing this work for other people, not just myself, and exploring different modalities, learning different modalities as I, practice as a holistic health practitioner, as a massage therapist, learning energy healing, Reiki in massage school. I was a yoga teacher. So getting that spirituality through that. And but I would say for me, my spiritual closet was really shut tight when I started channeling. And that was like, oh boy. Channeling light language, what is that? And how are people going to react to that? And how am I going to do that in my own house without my family, thinking I was crazy? And yes, I held that door shut for a while, and it's still, not fully opened, but my daughters were here this weekend, and they just said something in such a natural conversation about, one of my daughters was singing, and I said, oh, that's such a beautiful angelic frequency coming through you. And she said, that's my light language, Mom. It's like,
amazing.
wow.
Amazing.
Wow. That was a big mouthful, but it can feel very isolating. I think that, the spiritual journey, when I remember first being told, and I'm going to pass it back to you, that I was having a spiritual awakening back in like 2017 or something, because I was feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. And I felt isolated. I was confused. I felt like there was something inside of me that I was supposed to express or bring forwards, and I had no idea what that was. And I felt like I was being put in this box by society, and I just wanted to just break out. And I don't know what, but everything that was happening in my day-to-day life was just felt so not normal, but yet it was normal. Like that's what in this world, society, normal is. So take it
Oh,
away.
well, you remind me beautifully of when I had my first daughter in 2000. I can remember, oh, she just has such beautiful little energy. I can remember several instances where I was aware that she was seeing spirit as an infant. Like I was like, whoa, just and that test within myself, like this is beautiful. And that's not my old life. Like we didn't do that. We didn't talk about that, but I was fully aware. And then it just kind of drifted out of my life again. And she grew up. And then I've shared before on one of our videos that in 2012, I think I had asked for guidance for my health and how to eat properly for my body and how to be strong. And I received some guidance for that. And I remember thinking like, where did that come from? Like that was amazing. And then I just got back on track and I followed through and did all that. And then in 2017, when these things started coming up, kind of like pay attention. I think that having those small instances all and monitoring myself and how I reacted to those things helped me immensely because I knew I was okay and I had these beautiful outcomes and nothing horrible happened and everything was fine. And I found that I think that when these things start to pop up, right? And they can be those the we call them the angel numbers, the license plates, the clock, like numbers can come up and you're like, what is that? Why every time do I walk into the room do I see a numbers, zeros and ones on the clock? And you just kind of like, there's something to that. Like, what is that? What is that? And then leaning more and stepping into it a little bit farther and farther. And that's all very internal, right? That's all very internal. And now good things are happening for me and I'm not struggling as much anymore. And I'm kind of receiving a little bit more. But that's different than the outside, right? And my outside world at the time was my family, right? And my school mom circle. I've talked about that before. And this was not going to be okay. This was not going to be okay. And stepped into that learning, right? I was sitting in circle. I was practicing mediumship. I was practicing my psychic skills and having some beautiful success and feeling like, wow, I'm really starting to feel who I am through this. Not the Martha Stewart Karen, right? Like this, like, who is she? And then the right teachers show up and having just still in the closet, unless you're in my circle with me, right? Unless you're sitting in class with me or you're the person I'm texting in the morning, like, oh, the craziest thing happened last night. I had my safe people, right? I had probably like 3 people that I could reach out to and be like, oh my God, this was so scary. You're fine. You're fine. Thank you. Like we were just having these kind of conversations. And then it creeps, right? It creeps. It gets a little louder because now I'm not feeling like her anymore. I'm like, who is she? I want to know her. What is she capable of? And I think one of the biggest lessons, and I want to share this, is sometimes on the spiritual journey through this awakening journey, we hit this point of like, what am I afraid of? Like what, and it's kind of like how far can she go? How powerful is she? Like these were concepts I was taking on. And now I'm not afraid of like the things that I was afraid of before, but more about like, where does this go? How high does this go? So here it comes, right? What has to change in my life to be her? And for me, that was me still holding on to the closet. It took me a long, long time to get there. I think I was more open with my kids early on. Well, they were seeing the crystals all around the house. Mom bought a new frock. But I had to start talking because my throat chakra was like squeezing me and how like you're going to need to start expressing this to some other people in your life. I had family members who thought I had fallen off they thought I was on a religious track. Like, oh, she's over there. She thinks she's found Jesus. Beautiful for you, but that wasn't what was happening. And then I found myself with, desiring wanting to work with people, wanting to just like, let me do a card reading for you, right? Like, wouldn't that be so much fun? Oh my God, what does she think of me? There's a lot of judgment in there, self-judgment, not me judging other people, but there's that mirror of, I'm judging myself so harshly that like all these things again, how do I be her? How do I open up more? How do I step more into my power? And holding on to that doorknob and keeping myself in, you eventually have to let it go.
I mean, it is a choice, right? But it's like, for me, I knew that the more I held on to the door, the more uncomfortable it was getting.
Yeah.
And the invitation was there. Like, are you going to step into this? Are you going to follow your soul's calling, your deep desires, or are you going to bypass them?
Mm.
And it's all a choice. But the more that I find that I stay in the flow and just and follow these little, they're like breadcrumbs, these little synchronicities, these signs that show up, um, connecting us to the unseen world to tell us, yes, come this way. This is, this is the path. This is the path to freedom. This is the path to joy. This is the path to connection, to love, to peace. Or do you want to stay in that resistance mode? Do you want to stay in that place of, control or looping, right? Just looping and repeating the same where you're at with, are you content to stay in one place, or are you listening to the calling to grow and expand and see, like Karen said, like you said, how far can I go? How powerful am I? We had a comment this week on one of our videos, and I don't know that it was specifically related to, I think it was related to power and the power of unknowing.
Unknowing.
That's it. I knew it was on something. The power of the power of unknowing. And so how powerful is that? It's like the letting go of the layers. We don't have to know. We don't have to figure things out all the time. Being in that place of allowing what's meant for us to happen. And it's more than I believe our minds can ever conceive, think of.
I
I
don't think,
want to go there. Sign
yeah,
me up.
the mind, the ego protects us from that, right? Basically, the ego says, no, you don't need that. Right. And I'm never one to say like disregard the ego and like, I love my ego.
We
I
have to
have to,
love the
I have
ego.
to
Yeah.
love her. But, yeah, it's deep. It's deep.
It's deep and it's
Right.
wide and
And you
it's
have, and like these things like this would come up all the time. I'll share a quick story. I was sharing with Diane that like early on in my journey, like all the questions that come up, who am I? What am I? How did I get here? What is, and where's the check boxes? What is a star seed? What is an angelic being? What is a high dimensional being of light? What is, like, all of them, all, like, when you're on your journey and you're Googling, you're Googling them all because we've done it at that point where you start to get a grasp on who you are, right? And I do wish that we didn't have to Google, right? I do wish that all of this was available in 2017, and it feels like everything is so open right now, but or people are more open, and
more
I
people are waking up. More
always felt
people
like I
are
had to
waking
go
up.
underground for it. And I don't even know what that means. I always felt like I had to, like, this person is safe, this person is not. This class would be good for me, or I'm going to sit in the back of this online Zoom and I'm not going to let anyone see me here. God forbid I used my real name. Like all of those things, that's that holding that door,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
and then I think one day I don't even know if it's a moment in time or if it's a gradual opening. And I think it can be true for everybody. You can literally throw the door open and here's my business card. This is what I do, and I'm here. Or it can be like, I'm stepping out a little bit today. I'm gonna move the coats a little bit today and make some more room and open the door a little wider. And it's also individual. And I think that's the most important part. Everyone individually, and Diane are sharing different stories, but we're both there holding the door, right? I'm not sure. So there is this moment of stepping out and then
Coming on and creating this YouTube channel.
right, that
Hello.
then we step into the now what, right? Now what? And how do we go forward from here?
Yeah.
What are they going to think about me? How is it all going to play out? And I think we can talk about that in great detail.
There's so much more we can talk about in great detail. And wherever you are on your healing and awakening journey, we would love for you to share some of your struggles, some of your challenges, some of your darkest hours. There's a whole lot we haven't gone into. Dark nights of the soul, had many of those. Yeah, so we will continue this conversation, probably at least in a part 2, maybe a part 3, part 4, part 5, who knows, but all about coming out of the spiritual closet and knowing that you're in this community, you have this community, and more people are waking up. And this is everyday spirituality. We are at a pivotal point in time in history of humans reconnecting to their spirituality, to their soulful selves, knowing that this is the path, this is the way, this is where real living is.
Yeah. And you will step on that journey and say, where is my light? Where is my inner light? And you start to follow it. I did want to say, and if you find yourself not wanting to leave a comment, I totally get that, because I was too afraid to
Right.
even do that. God forbid
Yes.
my name would be next to a comment, right? This is all part of the undoing. And that's okay.
So much for joining us. Again, like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Please share any information that you find helpful with any other people that you think they might find it helpful, because this is how we would want to grow and shine our lights brighter. But the light in me honors the light in you, Karen, and the lights in all of you. And we will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.